Live from our studios in the nation's capital, your most reliable source for news, national, regional, and the rest of the world. Welcome to Kairi FM's Major News. Here's your presenter,
Steve Vidal. Good evening. In the headlines, medical doctor calls for authorities here to drop the hammer on the unvaccinated population. Dr. Vince Henderson pledges to advance policies for climate resilience as new cabinet minister. Antigen test no longer accepted to enter Antigua-Barbuda. And NYPD arrest man seen pacing outside United Nations with a gun. The details in a moment.
This Christmas, unlock a new digital world with 45% off a new DL3 Plus Pro smartphone from Digicel. Get it now when you buy a 30-day 25GB Prime Jumbo bundle to enjoy all your favorite Digicel apps. The best smartphone with the best apps. Enjoy a 6.2-inch screen to watch more Christmas classics in Playgo. Dual 5-megapixel camera to capture more Christmas moments. And then store it all in Billo, from blockbuster movies and chart-topping music to streaming live sports, video chats, and so much more. Get yourself a DL3 Plus Pro for $200 or gift it to someone you love. Visit a Digicel store today.
Are you looking for good eggs? I mean quality fresh eggs straight from the farm? Well, we have exactly what you're looking for, no matter the quantity. We've got the right amount. Visit us at Prince City downstairs Kairi FM on Independence Street for your fresh farm eggs, or call telephone 448-7331, 448-7330 or 448-8752 and we'll get you your fresh farm eggs.
I'm not exaggerating, boiling with excitement.
Welcome back, and we say good evening and welcome to our listeners tuned in via Variety Radio in Antigua, Barbuda and Flow Television, Channel 119 in St. Lucia. Now for the details. Medical practitioner Dr. Victor Emmanuel is calling for action to be taken to implement mandatory vaccination here, since, according to him, there is too much pussyfooting on the subject. Emmanuel believes it is a shame that politics has filtered its way into the COVID-19 vaccination process in Dominica. He says there are many Dominicans who visit health facilities as well as their private doctors and are still unvaccinated. He observed many unvaccinated include affluent and influential persons. Dr. Emmanuel says tough measures will have to be taken against the unvaccinated before coronavirus cases escalates on the island.
Our esteemed Dr. Kairi was on the program with our Prime Minister. She said a number of things, and among them was that in some countries where the vaccine has been made mandatory, they have achieved up to 95% vaccination rates. Some of the other things she said was that we hope that COVID-19 does not become endemic. We want to get rid of COVID. It can happen, but it requires everybody to get on board. And it's unfortunate that in some countries, and it looks like we're going to have to do that in our own region, and even in Dominica maybe perhaps sometime, that we're going to have to take the whip and, behind people to get them to vaccinate. The reasons that people are giving me, the reasons that I've heard, whether religious or some conspiracy theory or another, I reject them. I reject them outright and completely. Okay, I've been vaccinated and I feel superbly confident about my status. I'm fully vaccinated. The chances of me getting COVID, especially in my profession, they're much, much less reduced than if I were not vaccinated.
Emmanuel thinks that Dominica should follow other first world countries that have imposed restrictions on its vaccinated.
The reasons that people are giving me, the reasons that I've heard, whether religious or some conspiracy theory or another, I reject them. I reject them outright and completely. Okay, I've been vaccinated and I feel superbly confident about my status. I feel like, hey, I'm vaccinated, I'm fully vaccinated. The chances of me getting COVID, especially in my profession, they're much, much less reduced than if I were not vaccinated. But one of the things Dr. Etienne said was, in terms of testing, that people should be paying for their tests. All right? Everything is free. Everybody is getting everything free, and we cannot be doing that. I applaud Carl Nassif for taking the early step, one of the earliest businessmen to take the step where he decided that his workers who were unvaccinated had to do a test every week and present their results to him. And those were some time ago. Keith Mitchell said he will never compel anybody to vaccinate. He will never mandate it. Everybody is free to choose. But if we look at the number of cases in all the islands now, Grenada is one of the worst, and Grenada is suffering. That was partly because they decided that they should have what they call jab, which is the Juve. Even though he had said that they should not, people decided to go out and do it anyway. And so there's a huge increase in the number of cases, a huge number of deaths.
Dr. Victor Emmanuel saying that Dominica should follow other first world countries that have imposed restrictions on its unvaccinated. Dr. Emmanuel was speaking on Health Talk Radio on Kairi FM. The Moderna brand of COVID-19 vaccine will be available to be administered for the first time here. Dominica's Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Roosevelt Skerrit says the shipment of Moderna, along with additional Pfizer and AstraZeneca doses, will also increase capacity to give booster shots.
We have before us recommendations from the Ministry of Health on the booster shot. We have approved of the recommendations to provide a booster shot, and of course the Ministry of Health will announce those who will be first in line to receive that booster shot. So once we receive the 32,500 doses, we will, and I believe, also be receiving some AstraZeneca as well. I believe maybe about 25,000 or so doses as well. So we're getting some 11,000 or so Pfizer, 32,000 doses of Moderna, and 25,000 doses of AstraZeneca. So it will have enough to continue our inoculation of the categories, but also giving our seniors, giving people under health issues, the opportunity to have the booster shot and to give them the added defense against this COVID.
Referring to unsatisfactory vaccination rates, Mr. Skerrit has urged the parents to get their children vaccinated since the reopening of schools depend on it.
We look at the daycare centers, and I believe that we in the government will have to do something for them, something special for them, because they have not been able to pilot trade in any serious way and so on. And there's so many families who depend on these daycare centers so that they themselves can go to work and know that their children is in a safe environment while they're at work, while they're doing their business and so forth. So there's so many things that we have to get back to, and especially schools and the daycare centers. We really need to get these things back. So I'm pleading to parents, get your children vaccinated. It is in your children's interest, it is in your interest, and it is in the interest of all of Dominica.
Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit.
I, Vince Henderson, do swear that I will faithfully execute the office of Minister without fear or favor, affection or ill will, and that in the execution of the functions of that office, I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of Dominica.
I will honor, uphold, and preserve the Constitution of Dominica.
So help me God.
So help me God.
That was part of the moment when Dr. Vince Henderson took his oath to become the Minister of Planning, Economic Development, Climate Resilience, Sustainable Development, and Renewable Energy. His Excellency Charles Savary administered the oath at a swearing-in ceremony at the State House in Roseau this morning. That's just 4 days after Henderson was sworn in as the newly elected parliamentary representative for the Grand Bay constituency. Henderson, in a speech moments after, pledged to help advance his constituency and policies towards Dominica becoming the first climate-resilient nation in the world.
I look forward to serving as a member of the cabinet and hope that I can make a contribution that will help, or my contribution in a way that will advance the cause of the people of the Grand Bay constituency and Dominica as a whole. I have had the opportunity to serve before in several capacities, and I embrace the opportunity to serve in this new portfolio. It gives me the opportunity to bring to bear the experience as well as the training that I have had in matters pertaining to my portfolio, and in particular renewable energy, as this has been my work over the past decade, and perhaps one could even say beyond that. I also look forward to working in advancing the causes or the policies that have already been articulated by our Prime Minister in making Dominica the first resilient island nation in the world. I look forward to performing in that role and to ensure that I can give support to my colleagues who themselves have been burdened with dealing with the many challenges that Dominica has been faced with, and especially brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Dr. Vince Henderson, Member of Parliament for the Grand Bay constituency and a newly sworn-in cabinet minister. Police are conducting investigations into the seizure of illegal weapons in a northern community in Dominica. Police Superintendent Richmond Valentine has more details.
The police is conducting investigations into the seizure of 2 high-powered rifles and ammunition. On December 1, 2021, members of the Task Force, Drug Squad, and SSU conducted a search on the premises of Francian Joseph of Benz, which resulted in the seizure of 2 AR-15 rifles and 90 rounds of ammunition. 1 female has been arrested on suspicion of firearm-related offenses and is in police custody assisting with the investigations.
Police Superintendent Richmond Valentine. A Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Bill 2021 has been passed at Parliament, opening up the avenue to increase gross domestic product, that's the GDP, and the protections for local contractors. Minister for Public Works Kasani Laville wound up the debate on the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Bill last evening. He said a key objective of passing the bill is to improve the process and framework for procurement and do so with the principles of good governance.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that the citizens of this country, the investors, need to know what happens to their money, know how their assets are obtained and how assets are being disposed of. And this is why, Mr. Speaker, we are here today to pass this bill. Mr. Speaker, we want all citizens to be participatory to all stages of procurement. We are here to continue to be transparent, to ensure that we legislate these opportunities to add greatest value, and to ensure that the citizens of Dominica get the best returns on their tax dollar.
The 2021 Act replaces the Public Procurement and Contract Administration Act of 2012. President of the Builders and Contractors Association, Anthony LeBlanc, last month said the provisions of the 2012 Act was better. The parliamentary opposition during the debate on the new Act also proposed keeping the 2012 Act. Laville responded to that suggestion.
Senator Sanford and other members of the opposition, since the best advice that they have put forward, Mr. Speaker, is to go back to the Act of 2012. You can well imagine, Mr. Speaker, a government led by UWP in this modern era, in this modern and new dispensation. Mr. Speaker, a UWP government, UWP administration would close their eyes and shut their ears to any type of wisdom. The wisdom that we received from the experts from the European Commission and the World Bank, where they included in the recommendations, like I said earlier, that one option was to repeal, redraft, and replace. Why? Because the Act of 2020 was extremely difficult to operationalize. It is something that we on this side actually saw.
Minister for Public Works, Kasani Laville. You're listening to Kairi FM's major news at 5:45 p.m. In other news this evening, Member of Parliament for the Roseau Central constituency, Melissa Poppins-Skerrit, says the new amendments to the Income Tax Act will help young professionals still serving or servicing student loans to get out of debt quickly. The Income Tax Amendment Act 2021 that has been passed at Parliament this week will provide significant benefits to individuals renting residential properties, borrowers of student loans, and also individuals with home and health insurance. Among the measures are students or benefactors of students who have contracted to pay or are paying student loans, or the interest on these loans will from income year 2022 be able to deduct all the interest paid on the student loans every year. The MP for Roseau Central registered her support for that measure during the House debate.
Mr. Speaker, a new deduction for interest on student loans is a brilliant incentive aimed at helping our young professionals to get out of debt quickly. A student loan, Mr. Speaker, can be compared to a heavy mortgage, a lifetime debt incurring interest over years. Mr. Speaker, some people age well into their 60s and they're still bogged down by student loans. But Mr. Speaker, these savings are like an early Christmas gift to the people of Dominica.
Mrs. Skerrit has referred to the new measures as the biggest, or referred to it as the biggest tax cut to young persons on their student loans.
Mr. Speaker, this new tax deduction means more money in the pockets of our youth and more money in the pockets of their parents. This is certainly more money affording them the ability to invest in their future and less time being tied down to a student loan. Mr. Speaker, I have always urged the young people to think outside the box. Consider ways to create an additional source of income. I've always said to them that at any given time, aim to always have multiple sources of income. And I believe that this is the perfect opportunity to invest in a new business venture to generate additional disposable income, or maybe they want to build a new home.
That was the parliamentary representative for the Roseau Central constituency, Melissa Skerrit. From December 8th, 2021, travelers and returning nationals, residents of Antigua-Barbuda, will no longer be able to use the COVID-19 rapid antigen tests to enter the country. That decision was taken yesterday at a cabinet meeting where they discussed the possibility of the Omicron COVID-19 variant arriving in Antigua via an infected traveler. As a result, only PCR tests, no more than 3 days old, can be utilized for entry into Antigua-Barbuda. There is already a restriction on travelers who have visited South Africa, Botswana, Belgium and Hong Kong within a 14-day period. Since the restriction was imposed last week, Omicron has been found in several countries, including the United Kingdom, the United States, the Netherlands and Canada. Last Saturday, Prime Minister Gaston Brown warned that Omicron could enter Antigua-Barbuda via its strong air link with the United Kingdom. COVID-19 cases in the island have declined to 6 active infections. Meanwhile, over 56,200 Antigua-Barbudan residents are vaccinated against the virus. The Antigua-Barbuda government is also aiming to inoculate 60,000 people by December 31. A man with a gun who had paced for hours in front of the United Nations building in New York on Thursday has been arrested. The New York Police Department in a tweet noted that the man was no longer a threat to the public. Videos from the scene showed a white man with gray hair wearing a red sweater and brown jacket walking back and forth in front of the UN's front entrance with what appeared to be a long firearm in his hands. Several police vehicles and personnel were also at the scene, with multiple officers aiming guns at the suspect. UN employees were asked to shelter in place, and the New York Police Department also warned the public to avoid 42nd Street and First Avenue in Manhattan. According to Apache reports, the standoff began at around 11 a.m. He was eventually arrested with no injuries reported in the matter. You've just heard the news locally, regionally, and internationally as we leave you a quick look at the headlines once again. Medical doctor calls for authorities here to drop the hammer on the unvaccinated population. Dr. Vince Henderson pledges to advance policies for climate resilience as new cabinet minister. From the region, antigen tests no longer accepted to enter Antigua Barbuda, and NYPD arrests a man seen pacing outside the UN with a gun. Join us tomorrow morning at 6:30 for the first newscast of the day. On behalf of the entire news and production team and our sponsors, thanks for listening.